You would not believe what they've renamed Communist China. It is now the Chinese Soviet Republic. That's right, it has a brand new name. And this dev diary goes into the depth of all the changes they're making to the new Communist China. This is the first time you're reading this dev diary. I will skim over lots of the new changes. Be aware I may make mistakes because I'm not going to deep dive on this. And it is quite a long dev diary, so I will be skimming through a lot of screenshots. My objective of this dev diary is not a deep dive on every single new mechanic, but just my opinions and how I think it's going to affect the meta and whether I think it's going to be an enjoyable mechanic or whether it's going to hold Hoi 4 back. First of all, we have the screenshot of the Great Wall. Once again, I don't think this is bad. I like that this is included in the game. But just remember, the Great Wall doesn't look like this for the most of the part. That's the part that the tourists visit. The bit that's kind of been restored. You know, like when you go to a castle and it's just castle ruins? Well, it technically looks more like this bit and then this bit. It feels like for the most part, they have made a few bits look kind of ruined, haven't they? But for the most part, it doesn't look mostly like this. Apart from the one little tourist bit, which is a few miles worth that they've restored. Just an FYI, I thought I'd note on that. Here we go. Communist China. Sorry, the Chinese Soviet Republic. Elections never base. CPC party. Totalitarian regime. And then we have a guy with a bayonet charging. Then we have a praying to the flag. And then we have the fist and the sickle. And we have the icon for India. And then more communism. So the backstory is the Red Army was brutally defeated and they retreated through China and they're now just hiding out in the hills waiting for a moment to strike again. Will they succeed? Do they succeed? The new headquarters is a remote, underdeveloped and arid place. But not all hope is lost. The new base is easily defensible and the communists are poised to rebuild and start a struggle anew if they work hard and smart, except a new enemy is on the horizon and former enemies may become uneasy allies. We have a new leader of the PRC. Oops, not the PRC. We'll say Red China. That just encompasses everything then, doesn't it? His strategy led to a near destruction of the communists at the hands of the KMT. Although Mao Zedong is de facto leader of the party, rivals are poised to strike. So once again, you get to pick your flavor of communism. Whoa, new things here. We have a button here to create a faction, which is new. This would be the disable faction or remove faction, but it's not got the X in the corner of it, so it might be something different. So this might open up the tab for factions, which have been reworked. We have a balance of power. Welcome back, balance of power. I thought you were gone for good, but you're not. You're back again. I like balance of power. I know it was controversial for Italy due to the way the colonial mechanics worked for occupying land. I know the Civil War mechanics were really annoying. I didn't like them either. I personally feel like the introduction to balance of power got a bad rep because of the way it worked for Italy. However, I embrace more balance of power. Service by requirement, closed economy, partial mobilization, and nothing else. Everything else looks pretty standard. To start the game, you have a defunct economy. So your economy bad, army bad. Justification time plus 50%. Ooh, I like this. I like this. So one of the benefits of being communist or fascist from the very start of the game is you can justify it immediately. Practically with a little bit of political power. But this holds you back a little bit. So this stops you from like exploiting the mechanics. I will still try and exploit them, but remember, this is an anti-exploit tool to prevent you from justifying before the Japanese technically go to war with China, right? And then finally, we have, I always pronounce this wrong, Agrarian Society. Did I get it right that time? Agrarian Society. I have a funny feeling there's an English pronunciation of that word and an American pronunciation, and I'm getting the two mixed up. Anyway, regardless of that, your economy stinks as well. So the army stinks, the economy stinks, and your ability to justify stinks. So classic Kaiserreich intro. I'm going to call it what it is, actually. It's a Kaiserreich intro. It's where you start off with everything bust and you have to fix everything. Nothing against those mechanics, but with every rework we experience, seems to be a cliche thing to start with. Everything's bust and you have to fix it. Usually the right thing to do is fix the political power. There isn't a political situation problem, which is nice, but then you fix the economy and then you fix the army, usually in that order. Map changes. So this is the old map. Over it, big yellow China. Now we have a big blue China. Wow, there's so many warlords. Man, feast rise on this, boys. This is beautiful. People did talk about when the China rework happened, why they didn't add extra warlords, because there were a lot of conflicting factions in China. It's interesting that they've added this northern one too. It's new. Then we have this eastern one, eastern one. Of course, understand that I never filter myself and I just say what I'm really thinking. I think this is potentially going to cause AI problems. I really hope they're testing this really well because this could potentially run into a lot of problems. Once again, the AI has always been really bad with customizing front lines when there's multiple very small fronts, and it causes strange issues where the AI will abandon front lines. So just keep an eye out for that, and devs, keep an eye out for that. Interesting. This is interesting. See this? I think this might be a bug, but it kind of implies a capital city? Or is this representing some other fortification for Okinawa? And also we can see Communist China here, which has been divided once again. So it did used to control this state as well. I think they've actually divided the state up. Anyway, dig deeper and find out. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is what it used to look like, and now this is what it is. So they have shrunk it, and it does look like it's moved as well. Or maybe they've changed the terrain. Interesting. The communists now start with 2 states. This has been divided into 2. Don't be fooled by thinking both are equally good for you. The truth is the CCP never had a full control of these regions, as the remaining loyal troops in the area throughout World War II and during the ensuing civil war. We represent this with a state modifier called the Julin Garrison, which can be removed through a decision or focus. Oh, okay, so the economy is bust, and it is still pretty bust. It's interesting to see that under a lot of failed states, or states that aren't necessarily centralized, they don't have full control of that state. So I kind of like this mechanic. I feel like this should only be something you'll be able to remove when you fully form a proper government and become fully centralized. Because there's that concept of just a breakaway rogue state shouldn't be fully centralized, you know. So I like this. It's a bit different. This is a bit confusing. It looks like a river, but that is the Great Wall of China. Yeah, they have made it look slightly damaged now. Good change, Paradox. The focus tree, and it is so low resolution, I can't zoom in. I think they do this because they don't want us to see the full complete focus tree, because I think they're still tweaking and working on it. Because look at these look like templates. Oh yeah, there are the dogs. It's the dog with the phone again. Yeah, so that's the reason why they won't let us zoom in, which makes sense. Think about it, makes sense. We also have this one as well. Once again, a little bit low resolution. This is the industry part. Once again, not against any of this, but I feel like the pattern of making focus trees for Hoi 4 seems to follow a very similar pattern. This idea of 4 separate branches, industry, politics, and then, I don't know, army, navy, or air force, or whatever. It always follows this same pattern. I kind of like the way with the industry and the politics are combined as they usually are, because to boost the economy, you need to do something political on the inside. Or even better, though, remember the Mexican focus tree? It's even included the army stuff within the focus tree itself, even with territorial expansion as well. The Mexican focus tree is very, very good. There's a lot of decisions you got to make within that focus tree where you have to go like, oh, is this the best decision for my nation? And then the choices are very strategic, you know. And a lot of the time, the ideologies are baked within the existing focus tree as well. I don't know. Mexican focus tree is like a template of how to make a good focus tree. I think the issue with the Mexican focus tree is quite hard to test for, because there's so many like very, very small, mediocre changes within the focus tree. So it kind of makes it more difficult to test in the long run. That my guess would be. But this is probably a little bit easier to test. So pros and cons, I guess. We start off with 2 factories. Scary. And then later on, the Chinese Soviet Republic has a chance not only to recover from its dire situation, but also quickly industrialize. And now it has lots of factories. Wow. Economic planning. So we have a choice here between industrialize the first 5-year plan, which gives a construction bonus, production efficiency cap for 5 years. Is that 5 years? Might be less. And this one is 5% construction bonus, economic growth. Total factory requirement for this goal to be met. Failure to meet the industrial targets for the planned deadline will result in penalties to your economic efficiency, reflecting the loss of central planning confidence. I wonder what that actually results in. I kind of like that there's a mission baked within the focus tree, and if you don't achieve that mission, there's a penalty. I really like that. But take it one step further. Give me a bonus for fulfilling this mission as well. This is really cool, actually. This is how focus trees should be made. This concept that it activates a mission. Because if you're not prepared for that mission and you don't want to begin it, then don't select the focus, you know. Where with Mussolini, he kind of just throws missions at you, you know. So you don't have a lot of control of it. So I do like the fact that national focus has become a little bit more inclusive for the player. So the 5-year plan needs 72 mils. Wow, that's a bit high. Maybe they should bring that down a bit. And if you miss it, that's what you get. Oh, and you do get a bonus for fulfilling it. Okay, interesting. So basically, an ambitious goal versus a more short-term one. I kind of like this. I'd probably lean towards the more short-term one. It'd be kind of cool if the bonus they gave you is something absolutely outstanding, though. Base construction line speed. Oh, it's a permanent bonus, though. Oh, okay. I don't know why, but I'm kind of like more obsessed with like insanely big bonus, like 50% construction for like 3 months than a lot of other stuff. This idea of like an economic miracle happens, you know what I mean? I don't know, I kind of like that concept more. But once again, they're probably trying to mitigate exploits that could potentially happen by giving these outrageous bonuses for short-term periods. Rural surveys is an option to add a building slot. Okay. So it's the ability to build tall, I guess, as communist China. Okay. Kind of suggest that you might run out of building slots. If that is the case, then that's awesome. Once again, if you have a big penalty for a nation, having something in the focus tree that benefits that play style, it feels really rewarding to the player. So for instance, if you are forced to play tall because you've run out of building slots, giving me a focus that gives me extra building slots feels very rewarding to the player because it helps you progress. But if I've got 7 building slots and I can't fulfill those 7 and they're giving me an extra one, now I've got 8, and I'm like, well, I've not even built in one of them yet. And at that point, it's kind of like, well, why have you given me something I can't really get? I suppose it's different, though, if it costs political power to press a button, I suppose. But will you have enough political power to do it? I don't know, but there's no political power penalties at the moment. I'm going back and forth here, all over the place. Anyway, rural or urban planning. Basically, you've got to make a decision between local supply or manpower versus actual industry. Being the industry is an issue of the game, I think that's a bit of a no-brainer. Agrarian society, am I saying it right? And then we have the reform here. Interesting. Oh, I see. So it's the idea you're reforming this mechanic and it can become this, or it can become this. Interesting. I think the clear winner here is the urban society. But Mao was actually big on the urban thing, wasn't it? Because that's what the revolution thing was that failed. When I say thing, I really know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we have loyalties, we have Mao, Field Marshal. We've got some loads of organizers for keeping supply down. Loads of guerrilla warfare as well. Okay, pretty straightforward. Oh, a few militias as well. Militia guy. Okay, interesting. One thing I'll say about militias, I like them and I like irregulars. However, I kind of prefer them if you can build templates with them and not just have the game give you them through national focus. It'd be kind of something you can build with. So we have the Survivor of the Long March. That was a defensive bonus that you got for Mao in the existing game. This is your starting military situation. You have 6 divisions, and they're all super low strength. You start off quite low, and this is your ability to fix a lot of your issues. Cool. Renames the Chinese Red Army to the People's Liberation Army, reducing training time. Interesting. Doesn't really go too in depth for that one. We have a different late game military branch. So we've got option for Air Force and the Navy as well. Okay. Once again, I like the idea that you are landlocked at the start of the game, but you do have option to go into Navy. But once again, take into account you aren't going to have much of a Navy and you are going to be playing catch up with the world. So please give us the option to buy ships from other countries. Give me the option to complete these focuses and get partially constructed ships so I don't have to put a lot of time into them. Or give me insane naval dockyard output bonuses for a short period of time so I can catch up with the rest of the world. Because otherwise, this focus tree becomes kind of redundant. What's the point of a full-blown naval focus tree that devs have put so much time and effort in with these beautiful icons for you just to not really click on them because a lot of time you can't catch up with, I don't know, the rest of the world. The army focus tree, here we go. So recruitable pop, infantry attack, night attack plus 10%. Ooh, I like that. It's different. And we also have recovery rate, max planning, and organization. Probably just recovering from some of the penalties you're experiencing. Yeah. Armor attack. Ask for T-34 tanks. That's really interesting. Gives you 250 medium tanks. A follow-up on this one is have an option to still get more reinforcements of tanks. Because what will usually happen is you'll get like a bunch of tanks. You put it into a division. You'll be able to use that division. But as time goes on and you start to lose those tanks from attrition and warfare, you'll need to reinforce them. So give me an option for 25p to get maybe 50 medium tanks. So I have an option to constantly use political power as a tool to reinforce my tanks, which would be kind of cool. I may be the minority, but most of the fun aspects of Hoi 4 are naval role-playing. Okay. And building a navy from scratch. Okay, I'll agree with that, actually. Building a navy from nothing actually is fun. Focus on creating a balanced naval capability of sailing the high seas. And what a better nation to cater that fantasy is the landlocked nation with no navy. Very cool. Very nice. Option to add 4 naval dockyards. I like this. That's a lot of naval dockyards per focus. Option to add production lines. Ah, they've read my mind. This is perfect. No, this is really good. I like the idea of building a navy from the ground up. I suppose in a way, you're not actually building it from the ground up because you're adding these existing production lines that you've already got. So maybe it's a hard one to get right because a lot of the time you are playing catch up, and then to have a big enough navy to be able to do anything is tricky to do within the game's time span. World War II planes of Communist China did not match any of the results. Okay, so they didn't have an air force, but you can make an air force. And here are some of the modifiers. This one's kind of interesting. Unlocks production minus 15% for mass production of carriers. I presume that's carrier fighters and bombers, I'm presuming. The Mayos, none of them particularly stand out. I'm looking for unique ones, but they're all pretty regular. We have the balance of power system, so we either go with Mao or the Communist Party, or the committee. So it's committee versus Mao. Unstable cooperation. I think it's important with the balance of power to have pros and cons whatever direction you go, and then also have a very special bonus for being in the middle. I don't think it should be black and white with the balance of power. There should either be a big bonuses and big penalties for supporting Mao, and the same goes for the opposite direction, then maybe a special bonus in the middle as well, so like an equilibrium bonus. Factory output is really good. And then political power by going with Mao. Do you go for your strong, charismatic leader, or do you go for the economy? And this is the historical branch. The People's Republic. I could read that. Towards a one China, align autonomous regions, seek a peaceful reunification. Interesting. We also have the ability to do raids. This is raiding against other warlords, giving big attack bonuses. And these are land-based raids, so you can actually see a truck moving across the map. Interesting. It seems to give XP. Does it give you territory, though? It doesn't look like the case. Usurp control over Yan'an against China. Gives the option to control a specific state. I would make sense. That's what the raids actually do. I guess that's replacing border conflicts, which are kind of a dated mechanic at the moment. Once you've got control of the state, you've got the option to develop it. Cool. Leadership of Mao Zedong, where he gives you more bonuses for Mr. Mao. I like the idea that charismatic leader gives more political power, which unifies and centralizes your nation. But at the same time, when power centralizes on a one figurehead and you've created a cult of personality, there should be cracks that are forming in your army, your navy, and your air force because you're relying too much on the decisions of one man. That's why I kind of like with Mussolini that when you give him full control, the army, navy, and XP start to tick down. I like that concept, the idea that there's too much power for one individual, and obviously he's going to start making mistakes. Strange that for Mr. H, for Germany, that there is a thing, because that was a problem that happened later in the war. When he took full control of the army, there was a lot of mistakes that started to happen due to all the power centralizing around him, and it's strange that's not included in the game. Okay, guerrilla cells got the option for manpower, resistance decay, and increased compliance when you take control of these states. Fair enough. So these are pretty much the new infiltration mechanics. It damages particular pieces of land. Now, these mechanics never worked very well in the existing game. They were a way of declaring war later in the game and taking control of land, but it was very difficult to micro because you had to pause the game when it happened and then move them around and whatnot. I feel like for this to work, you got to give really big attack bonuses for short periods of time for it to work. And we can see that with attack, entrenchment, and breakthrough bonuses. I feel like it should give these bonuses for 30 days, but really, really big bonuses so you can solidify your front line and then conduct an actual war effort. But I tend to find that a lot of those divisions are floating in the front line and already pre-encircled, so it's kind of difficult to use them productively. I think one thing that's fun about Hoi 4 is to prepare for war. And when you have these divisions that just pop up out of nowhere, that aren't the template that you've chose, and you don't have any control where they spawn, it kind of feels like you don't have control over that, which is kind of frustrating. We can raid the Japanese weapon depots. Oh, that's the flag for Red China. That's cool. It has the option to steal equipment. Cool. You have the option to add a new trait for Mao Zedong, which increases compliance game. Ooh, that's very OP. That's very strong. Anything that increases compliance game, even if it's a flat percentage or a small base amount, it's very, very big and it makes a very big difference. There's a few for, I think, Bulgaria. I have to think about that. That just gives a ridiculous amount of compliance. It increases the amount of compliance you get by 3 or 4 times, like an absolutely huge amount. Probably needs to be nerfed, to be fair with you. So you've got 2 paths, basically. You either go with Mao, and this is the path of the committee, and this is what options they get. I'd be curious to see, hovering over some of these focus, to see what they actually give. So there's definitely 2 different leaders. Both of them lose political power, contribute influence gain. Okay, so it solidifies the balance of power for that specific leader. That's interesting. And then it has rewards later on. Looks like political power, factory output. Okay, cool. The Bosniaks will have access to a unique mechanic that relates to the new faction system. Adds faction influence. Interesting. So basically what you do is you're aligning with Stalin with this path. And you're basically pulling influence from the Comintern to have more control. I like that, because that makes the 2 paths very different. An independence route with Dong, or a faction-based path with the Stalin path. That's actually really cool, actually. That's the very first time they've done something like that before, and they actually feel really different other than join Comintern focus, which we've seen a million times before. And then it gives you the options here to send diplomatic missions to the communists in the Comintern. And I presume in this part of the path, you can now start to pull more influence from the Comintern. Cool. So it looks like eventually the committee does get power behind one individual leader. Some of these bonuses are very good. An unwilling Daiachi, our enemy's enemy. Lose stability, but lose political power. Interesting. Very different. Interesting. The Lend-Lease from the Soviet Union results in equipment to be cheaper. Okay. All right. We finally got the option for guerrilla warfare, giving militia bonuses. And eventually, an endgame. And the endgame results in political power, stability, a war goal against the Raj and Tibet. Will you be able to core Tibet? Will you be able to core Tibet? Beijing will be renamed to Beijing. Beijing will now be renamed to Beijing. I know it's spelled different. I know. Oh, this one's really interesting. Justify gold time minus 50%. Ooh, are we talking about world conquest here? Ooh. Okay, that's kind of cool. I really like that this gives 5 building slots as well. Just a focus that moves your capital but does nothing else. It's like 70 days for nothing. You know, I've just lost so much political power by doing that focus that really doesn't really do that much. But at least it gives you something in the long run for that. The new 4th Army attacked by nationalist forces. Demand action by Kai Chek. So this is a choice if you want to join the United Front or not. I like that there's 2 options for Mao, centralizing power behind the autocrat, and then there's the option to work more with the committee to eventually form a new leadership, maybe working with the Comintern and then intercepting the Comintern to basically pull power away from them and influence them. I really like that idea. This idea of going your own path and this option to being integrated, but then working with the Comintern. I like that a lot. I feel like there should be more options when you're a part of the Chinese United Front to claw power away from the United Front to maybe become the leader and then maybe have a way of infiltrating China from a different angle, for instance. It just feels to me, I'm just looking from an angle here, like, how is it going to be possible if I join the United Front to seize power? Well, that's really interesting. Closer ties to the Soviet Union. And at the very bottom, it says plus 10% mastery bonus for 365 days for all armor tracks. So that's the new doctrine system. That's going to be very spicy to see how that's going to work out in the final game. As you can see, guys, there are a lot of changes being made here. And the focus trees are very big, very girthy, which you guys tend to like. However, I'm not fully sold on some of the changes that are actually being made. It's one of those moments where I need to get my hands dirty, get my hands on those mechanics, and then kind of feel like how are they going to play out in the actual real world. Give it a trial run, and then I'll let you know how I feel. Maybe we'll see an update in 1 month's time from now. Of course, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. And that will give you more of these videos in future. We'll be covering more of these dev diaries as we progress. I love you. Goodbye.